So if you've been a long time subscriber to the channel, you know that I've done several videos on third generation Prius like this one behind me. Now, one of the things I actually haven't done is rebuilding a hybrid battery pack. You know, in the dealership days, you just get the hybrid battery pack from the parts department and remove and replace. That is all. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you some tips that you should really consider before taking this approach. Now, I'm doing this for a friend of mine. I've actually never opened a hybrid battery pack and removed all the modules in order to replace just one or two. But I'm doing it for him as a favor, and I learned quite a few things that I thought it was very worth to share. So let me grab the camera, let me point at it, and let's walk through it, and I'll show you what it is. All right, so this is a 2011 Prius, and the hybrid battery pack failed, and I have an idea of why it actually failed, and I'll share that later on in the video. But take a look around. I actually remove everything that's back here in order to remove the hybrid battery pack. That right there is the hybrid harness that goes all the way to the front. It goes into the hybrid inverter converter assembly, and while I wrapped it with a rag, you don't necessarily have to do that. I just didn't know how long this car was going to be down, so I just did that anyways. You don't have to do anything with that because the inverter gets its power from the hybrid battery, so therefore as long as there's no power, that's not going to do anything. However, you should disconnect the 12-volt battery. But let's start with the tips that I have for you, which is right over here, and this is the hybrid battery pack. Now, first things first, if you're going to do this, make sure you do your research, because you have to learn how the hybrid system works and how the hybrid battery pack works. Now, I'm not going to get too technical with this, but I am going to tell you that if you do decide to take some of these apart, for tip number one, I would say that you need to have a collection of trays or maybe just Ziploc bags labeled, because there's a lot of hardware that's got to come off of this. Number two is whenever you take something apart, make sure you place it properly where it goes, again, because there's just a lot of stuff that needs to come off, and since this is not an everyday repair, you don't know, or you won't know exactly how it goes back together. I'm not sure how many videos out there are for rebuilding hybrid battery pack, but remember I told you why I think this battery actually went bad? Well, one of the sources, or actually one of the contributors to what causes batteries to go bad, is heat. You know, when you have a lot of heat, this thing does not survive as long as it should. So you have these, every one of these are modules, right? So this is one module, two modules, and two of them is actually one block. And without getting too technical again, you just have to know that in order to remove one of these, you'll have to remove the entire modules that are adjacent to it. So for example, this one right here is bad, so I had to remove the entire modules that are right next to it. Okay, so this one with the next is going to go, and then this one's going to go too. So in order to do that, I have to remove the ones right here. Another tip is have a vacuum, because there's a lot of dust in here. This is what's contributing to the fact that this battery was probably not getting enough air to keep it cooled down. That's not to say that one of these modules will actually go bad before it should, but which it happens. But at the end of the day, if you do your maintenance properly, you know that there's a filter that goes in here, which is inside the car in this area right over here. And I'll have all those parts in the link of this video. But what I wanted to say is that if you take a look at this fan right here, I hope that you can see that very good in the video, but check out all that dust in there. Now this dust, there's a duct, an air duct that goes right in here, comes, once I take all those modules off, I'll see if I can get a picture for you and put it here in the video. You'll see that comes in here, and this right here is not even close to the amount of dog hair, dust, and just disgusting debris, even leaves and stuff that got into this car. This car was filthy. I've actually spent over an hour cleaning this thing, and that's as best as I could do. I'm pretty sure I could do better, but that's not the point. The point was to keep the car clean and keep your entryway to the blower clean, and that's by actually adding a filter that Toyota actually made. Now, what am I trying to get at here? That if you're going to do this properly, please do it right. So go ahead and have a vacuum with you, and make sure you vacuum all the stuff out. Another tip, you can see how these bus bars right here are all corrosive, so they will be replaced. So that will be another tip, to replace those bus bars, or at least have a replacement for them. And be ready to actually replace this harness, because if you take a look at this one right here, Take a look at that. Now this right here will cause a lot of resistance. So you don't want to take a chance with this, because this actually feeds back into this computer, and eventually that corrosion is going to travel through the harness, through the wires into the computer, and then now you have a failed computer. So you need to go ahead and replace this. This is actually sold separately. You could purchase it and then replace it. If you're going to do this, do it right. Now, another tip right here, I take a wire brush, and once I have it out of my hand, I clean each individual terminal, because if you can see right here, you can see some corrosion buildup. And then I put, once the terminals are done, I put them in this box. They all go in order. This one right here is the one module that goes in the end right in here. Once I get done with this, then I'll take a pretty good picture of what it looks like when it's done, but you won't see that much of a difference, because I actually wasn't intending to make this video today, but I thought it would be a good idea to share what I've learned when it comes to replacing these. So what I'm going to be doing today is replacing these two. I have them right here. Okay. And just to let you know or show you, sometimes you could buy these online depending where you get them from. These could be leaking. For example, this one, you can see it right there. It's leaking. Look at this one. This one's worse. Okay, so make sure you know where you're getting this from, and make sure that they have a return policy if you are getting them from online or used or whatever. Another tip, bus bars, make sure you have them. Replacement nuts, because these nuts go into each of these terminals. Another tip, make sure you have a lot of time as well, because this is time consuming. You don't just take out the battery out of the car and then just get on there with a cordless wrench or whatever you got, I don't know, and just tackle this job. This is very tedious. Take your time with it, because you need to do a good job. To clean the blower motor, I'm actually going to take this apart. You can see the screws in here. Another tip, you shouldn't use compressed air for this, because if anyone knows about any of these blowers, once you get compressed air on there, yeah, it's going to blow most of that stuff out, but you're also putting strain on the motor itself, and technically you're just cutting the life short on the blower motor. So another tip, I will also suggest to get wooden blocks like I have in here. It makes the job a lot easier, because remember, you got to take each one of these modules gets held down with screws in the bottom, bolts, right? So you make sure that you have to be able to get in there. So you can't get in there if you just have it sit on a flat surface. This battery pack is very heavy. It's about 100 pounds, I would say. So if you could get your hands on somebody to help you lifting it out of the car and putting it back in, that would be ideal. Again, corrosion, look at this right here. Another tip, be prepared to replace all this stuff, because you just never know what you're going to find inside of here. Look at that. That's not normal right in here. Make sure you clean that up real well. And then just make sure, like I said at the beginning, label everything, because if you do end up having to order something like bus bars or harness or whatever it is, and you have this thing apart and comes like another week or two that you're putting it back together, you're going to have a hard time figuring out where things go. So even me, that I have a lot of experience, I'm actually labeling stuff and putting it where it belongs. And yeah, those are just some tips that I wanted to share if you decide to tackle this on your own. So yeah, never stop learning. And that's what I've been doing with this job today. And I thought I'd share that with you. This is the duct that goes into that blower motor. This round side right here goes into that inlet. And then let me show you what this looks like right here. Look at this. That is disgusting. Everything that sits inside the cabin of the car will go into here. Therefore, this thing needs a filter. Now, it did come like that from the factory, but Toyota has since, for a few years or several years back, has made a filter that goes in here. This is where that panel that sits behind here in the rear passenger, that's the vent right there. So this goes right there like that. But don't forget, you still need to service that air duct, okay? And it'll be best off if you put a filter in there. Now, there's definitely a lot of places out there that now do sell reconditioned hybrid batteries. They also do either 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. They do charge quite an amount for it. I mean, it is a hybrid battery, it is expensive. As you know, with a hybrid vehicle, I mean, there's several different components that could go bad, but Toyota seems to have it down just properly. So never stop learning. I've actually learned this myself because I actually never took this apart, and I thought it'd be worth sharing. So with that being said, I hope this video was helpful. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other more of my videos. And thanks a lot for educating yourself and making progress. Best to you.